Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I have a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today is episode 185 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/2for1 studios. It's the best place to consume all the content, guys. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you're updated on all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as all the cool content we have at 2 for 1 studios. I clearly cannot talk today. And if you didn't know, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year. Kapow. You know, Kapow Comics, how much money do they owe us, Daniel? That's my question.
A lot.
I think so. A lot.
And one day, the bill will come due. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
The bill will come due.
when we have become very famous people, and we go into the shop, hopefully it's still there, and be like, you just had famous people, sponsoring your shop for years, and you had no idea.
You know why we'll still be there, Daniel? Because we're fucking we're
That's right. That's right.
The torch.
It will not go away because people will hear about it on our podcast, and then it'll be the most successful comic shop probably in the South, if I had to guess.
I was gonna say of all time.
Okay.
Anywhere,
fair.
but
I accept that.
Why shortchange our hard work? So, listeners, we are talking about Invincible, the first 2 episodes of season 2, and we might dive into some Marvel stuff if this peters out, which I have a feeling it might. And to all you listeners out there, I have not actually watched the in-between episode of the special Adam Eve that come out, I think, a couple months prior to the premiere of season 2. So that's still on my docket, and I believe there's a spinoff on the way, but doesn't matter. We're talking about Mark Grayson, Invincible himself. Daniel, I know that we both, I think, really loved the first season, and it was kind of like a treat for me. Every Thursday, I would go get my Andes, my triple chocolate chunk, and I'd come back and I'd watch a new episode of Invincible. And it was like a tradition I had for, however many weeks that first season was. And then the show ended, and there was lots of talk from Robert Kirkman about when the show will restart. The pandemic hit, or we were already in the pandemic, I think, but there was lots of talk about the longevity in between seasons, and he's gone on record to say now that there will never be, unless something catastrophic happens, there'll never be a gap between seasons 2 and whatever seasons there are, like there was between this first 2 seasons. So my question to you is,
his goal was a season a year from here on.
That's fair, right? And I think part of that is, you want to kind of keep in the brain, right? You want to always.
Most animated shows, I don't know of many that, outside of Arcane, which on Netflix, which has been out for like 2 years and has maybe another year or 2 till the next season comes out. But the animation style in Arcane is so ridiculous. It's not Spider-Verse level, but it's right underneath it, kind of in terms of like the ambition of the animation. But in terms of just like animated shows, I watched Star Trek. Lower Decks. That's a yearly show. It's a 10-episode season every year. Other shows, Rick and Morty typically is, all these other kind of things. So I think it makes sense. I think
Invincible does feel pretty polished. It looks.
It is, and it's long, right? It's like 45 to 50-minute episodes per episode, and most animated shows are not that. Most animated shows are 20 minutes. So
also, I'm not 100% correct on this, but I'm pretty sure I saw a report yesterday that Arcane is returning in the spring of next year.
Okay, I thought it was 25, but maybe I would love that. I would love that. As an aside, Arcane is probably one of the best animated things I've ever. To me, when I'm thinking of what are the best animated pieces of media I've consumed, Spider-Verse is up there, and then Arcane is up there right with it, just in terms of quality of animation, ambition of animation, like doing things I haven't seen before, and then also just telling an amazing character-driven story where by the end of it, I care about characters in a game I will never play. I have no interest in League of Legends ever. It's not even the style of game. It's also just like the community around it just is like, no.
Show?
Oh my God. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well,
Watch Arcane.
I need to watch it. It's on the list, and maybe when season 2 comes out, I'll catch up.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah.
Back to Invincible.
Okay, sure.
The way we ended with season 1 was basically Omni-Man revealing to Mark almost his destiny, right? Like I'm not a human. I'm from a different planet, and it's our objective is to basically infiltrate various planets and subjugate them for our motherland. And they kind of look at it also as like you're inferior, your pets. He even calls his wife a pet or a thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I look at you more as a dog, which is incredible in terms of just like character moments, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously it's ramifications we've already seen, but the show ended with Mark and Omni-Man fighting, and Omni-Man just completely, putting him through the ringer in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And now we're in season 2. And so how are you feeling so far about the season? And what's your thoughts on these first 2 episodes?
Love it. Love that Invincible is back. I think it really is one of my favorite shows right now. And I think there's a level of coolness to this show that feels like you're a kid playing with action figures and coming up with these grand, elaborate things. And it's like you're playing with your Star Wars action figures, and then you go grab like a Dragon Ball Z alien figure, and now it's this alien that's coming, and you're just like kind of just expounding on these just fun ideas of like, oh, and then this happens, and then this happens. And it's wonderful to have an animated show that feels so adult, right, in terms of how it presents itself, how it does characters, the writing, but then visually feels like I'm watching, the Justice League or one of these classic kind of comic book animated shows that we grew up on. Loved the first 2 episodes. I think I loved the gag in the first episode where they kept setting up the title, but then they would just say the word. I loved it. Yeah. That was just, and that's a wonderful thing. I'm like, I'm guessing that couldn't have been in the comics, because it's kind of like just something they did last season where they're just like, every time the title comes up, and I just love the gag. And then I also just love the new way. I mean, it's instead of blood, it's like cracking now, I guess, the title. Yeah, man, it's fantastic. I mean, it feels like the show didn't really miss a beat. You know what I mean? It just kind of feels like you just kept going from the last season. But yeah, I'm a huge fan so far. I can't wait to see the multiversal stuff that's happening, especially in episode 2 is very interesting. I'm excited to see, different versions of Mark and why can't Omni-Man? And so I love what they're doing with the mom and kind of her spiral, descent into just brokenness. I think is being handled really well. Yeah,
I love Walter Goggins, man. I love him.
God,
just his voice is always so good,
and his character's so good. Like he's like one of my favorite characters on the show. I think he's that element of just cool badassery. You know what I mean? And like I don't know. I absolutely love what's his name? I'm blanking on his name in the show. Is it Walter? They call him Walter.
Walter, the Walter Goggins character was his name.
Is his name Walter in the show? Actually,
maybe it is Walter. I'll say this: it's one of those shows too where, first of all, it always cracks me up. I've said this before on the channel, but it always cracks me up when you hear cuss words in an animation. Like my brain is still not used to it. Yeah. And I was watching it when Kim was on the couch doing something, and I just started chuckling because they said a cuss word and it was in a cartoon. And I don't know why it still feels like, I think it's because I'm programmed as a kid to like not associate that with that.
Sure. Yes.
And I also have thought watching this 2 episodes, like, man, this will be a really cool show to show your kids one day when they've gotten to that age where it's like they've aged out of cartoons because they're trying to be cool. And you're like, Cecil. Yeah. And you're like, okay, I get it. You're cool. You're too cool now for your dad. Yeah. But let's watch this. Just check out this one show called Invincible with me. And it's like, I think it's gonna be like, they're gonna be like, whoa, what is this? And I look forward to that moment for one, and 2, I was kind of scared when we started seeing the multiverse stuff, because I was like, holy crap, everything is multiverse now, which is not a bad thing. It just happens to be all happening at once in all kinds of mediums.
Sure.
And I think it makes me feel a little better after I watched the second episode, just because one thing you were touching on when you're talking about it coming back and how these cool, like, play with your action figures, is that Invincible, that universe, it's not connected to Marvel. It's not connected to DC. And so it's just about this one character, mainly about Mark Grayson. And so I think because it's more contained like that, I don't have to worry about the convolution of it all. Like, I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And I think a great way to use the multiverse, there's all kinds of ways, like having 3 different Spider-Man show up. But a great way is for character. And that purpose is to, hey, here are your alternate versions. Here's what you could become. Right. And I think it seems like the theme of this season so far is like, am I my dad? Or could I, under the right circumstances, could I become my dad? And the answer is unequivocally yes. The answer is he could become his dad. But what makes a hero is deciding not to become that thing you fear the most. So that is, to me, hopefully the thesis of this season, and I think we'll get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm very excited. I wasn't subscribed to it, but I was seeing some posts from the Invincible subreddit. So I may have got myself spoiled just a tiny bit on like much later events, like in the show, but but at the same time, the thing that came about, I was like, oh, that's going to be amazing, that kind of feeling. And so like I think it's a thing of like I don't worry about the multiverse stuff too, because they're just telling the story of the comics. It seems like it's pretty much like 1-to-1. This is how the graphic novel goes, so we're just gonna do it like this. You know what I mean? And so it doesn't. To me, it's not like, oh, well, they're doing multiverses to be relevant. It's like, oh no, well, that's just what happened in book 2 or whatever issues. Covered this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right on all accounts. I think we are one of the luckiest like generations of viewers, because cartoons grew up with us, right? Like I was in, well, I mean, like, I guess like, what The Simpsons is probably the earliest like adult cartoon, but like I was,
Family Guy.
Well, yeah, and I was saying that Family Guy was about 10 years later or so, right?
Right.
When I was starting to be like a preteen and kind of be able to understand those kind of jokes and stuff. And I think what's cool is like, this to me is like the ultimate evolution of that in some ways, where it's like, it's an adult cartoon, but it's not just like gags and funny. It's like cool and like takes itself really incredibly seriously. Yeah. And yet it still looks like the shows we grew up watching. And I just think there's something.
Yeah. I mean, the appeal of Family Guy.
It hits a level that like nothing else does. It hits a level of like, I love this as an adult, and my kid self is also having just as much fun while watching.
100%. And Family Guy's, you're right. Family Guy's is interesting because it's a show. It's one of the first that I can recall shows that got to be gross and nasty. I say gross, but like got to be immature and
adult
and like and sexualized and violent and all these things, right? And so as a preteen, which I think we were probably 10 or 11 when that came out, it was the greatest thing of all time, because it was like this is like I get to watch this very taboo thing, but in cartoon form. And I think you're right. It was like that worked and was so interesting, and is still very popular to this day because it's tapping into a rebellious type of youth. Yeah. Where you're right. Invincible is the maturity of like, okay, we can still take the sex and we can still take the violence, but we can tell real life stories with the fantastical elements around it, which that's what to me is, you're right, the ultimate form of that. So it's not sexualized or violent to just be violent. No. It's setting up stakes, and it's trying to also let these are real people with real world consequences within the universe they've set up.
And it's doing what I think every good superhero medium does, which is you treat superhero like it's a genre, right? Like the violence is part of the genre. And like in that way, and the action is part of the genre, but at the core, Invincible is about a son with an abusive father that is trying to reckon with that, and like reckon with like a dad that was abusive and was kind of hiding that. You know what I mean? And that's a story that you could tell in any genre. And if 100%. You do it right, it's amazing, right? And so I think at the core, it's like it's just good storytelling at just a base level. They're telling very fleshed out, well-rounded, realistic characters that don't react to everything perfectly. You know what I mean? That have reactions where you're like, that wasn't the best, you know, but that feels realistic.
Even like Adam Eve's dad and like, you know, her. Or is it stepdad or her real dad? But I don't know. But
well, you have to watch the special. So
I need to watch that. So there we go. That's my fault. So anyway, I think, you know, like Steven and stuff like that, where it's like you're tapping into these somewhat complex ideas and things that you throw a pebble in your neighborhood and probably someone was having that conversation earlier that week in a different way, of course. But something that felt real.
What's amazing is it blends so many like fantastical kaiju moments with the very mundane moments with these characters. Like one of my favorite scenes in the new season was Debbie going back to work, and they're showing that house, and there's this kind of controlling boyfriend / husband, and like she can't help but like she's not your pet, you know, which is like just a direct callback to what Nolan said last season. But it's just this wonderful little scene where it's like, man, like. That feels like it would be an HBO show, not like a cartoon superhero show. And I just think, to me, Invincible is at a different level than I've seen yet in terms of just like I said, what I said, it's making the adult Daniel happy and the kid Daniel happy at the same time to like the same degree. You know what I mean? And like, there's not much that can be nostalgic and intellectual and like kind of pushing my thoughts at the same time. I just think it's a beautiful marriage. And like I know that like Robert Kirkman, I think I saw a quote recently saying he imagines he wants at least like 100 episodes. And I'm like, yes, I want you to do this. And I just want you to like keep telling the story after the comics end if you want, you know, if you got the ideas and
I don't want
it
that
keeps the
personally.
quality. Okay, maybe not. But like, I just think like I could watch this show forever. Is kind of how I feel like, and almost like never get bored of it. It just keeps telling stories like it does.
Well, a couple things there. One, from what I understand, including, I think there could be room for roughly 5, maybe 6 more seasons to cover the entire thing. Yeah. Which I think is a healthy amount of time. That's 5-6 more years of Invincible. Yeah. And they're also, which first of all, for me, I think 5 seasons, that's like the sweet spot of like not overstaying your welcome for me. Sure. And I feel like
it's only 50 episodes though. That's only half of what he's wanting is 5 seasons, 10 apiece.
True. I
don't know. I don't know the comic book. They may need 10 seasons to do it justice. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I'm just going off kind of like, here's where they're at in the comic, like issue wise, and then how many they produced so far.
I guess like how many issues are there? You don't know. Okay.
Oh, no. I want to say like 150 or something.
And what issue we're at?
I think we're like at 28 right now or something like that. So,
okay. So like, okay.
You look it up real quick because I can't reach my keyboard. Yeah. But I could be totally wrong on that. And like my other point was, when you said you've kind of seen some spoilers, I've only read the first like 2 or 3 issues of Invincible, and I really liked what I read, and I didn't stop for any good reason. But now that I'm in the cartoon, I just don't want to look anything up. And I know there's going to be there's like bigger threats than even Omni-Man. And
so end of season 1 was issue 13, and there's 144 issues total.
I was a little off, but yeah.
But that also says they're doing some things out of order. Like some of the things that happened in season 1 don't happen till issue 30, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
they're taking some creative liberties, but I'm fine with that because you're using Robert Kirkman as the driving force. So like,
well, he's the guy. I mean,
exactly. I mean, like he's the guy. But
it's perfect. Yeah, it's a perfect example of like
for a good reason.
When people like, I'm a huge comic book fan. I buy comic books every month, and I've bought them my whole life. And I am totally okay with not being 1-to-1 because it's a different medium, and you can't be 1-to-1 and be perfect at it. Yeah. I'm not saying the show is perfect now, but it's a great adaptation. It's an amazing adaptation of it.
Yeah, and absolutely.
That being said, I've never read all the comics, but just from what I understand, it's hitting everything pretty much 1-to-1. And you had the writer creator of the show, or the comic also is the writer creator of the show.
Yes, I mean, so it's hard. Even if you are like, I wish they'd done this. You're like, I mean, you're arguing with the guy that.
Yeah, it's like Neil Gaiman
is the god of this universe. Yeah. I mean, like
it's like Neil Gaiman making Sandman the comic book, and then he's doing this show on Netflix.
Right.
It's like George Lucas making Clone Wars, and then he's making. It's like, you might not like it, but this is the creator's will.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: I have not seen like any criticism of Invincible, and I haven't been like scouring the forums for it, or really. Yeah. I've been avoiding those forums because I don't want to get more spoilers. Right.
Right. Me too.
But. It does seem kind of like everyone's happy with this show, and like, I mean, again, it's in terms of just like it's a show accomplishing what it sets out to accomplish. It's one of the best shows on streaming right now for me, as far as like meeting the potential that it sets out with.
It's amazing how Amazon. I mean, I love Jack Reacher. I haven't watched all of Jack Ryan. It's really popular.
Sure.
I don't really like The Terminal. I mean, I watched a lot of The Terminals with Chris Pratt. It's for me, it's just not that great.
Yeah.
But you have Invincible. The Boys is really popular, whether you like it or not. It's super popular.
To me, Invincible is the better version of The Boys in some ways. To me, it's like it's
100%.
the better superhero deconstruction. To me, like The Boys has too much just like.
The Boys is more Family Guy.
Yes, exactly.
It's more Family Guy. 100%.
It's trying to be shock value, and sometimes the storytelling quality takes a hit because of that. To me, versus Invincible, 100%. Where it's all about the stories and like.
Yeah. No, I agree. And my point mainly was just that Amazon Prime has some pretty solid, fare, and
they just don't have a lot of it. But what they do have, what's good is like.
Yeah, I mean they have Lord of the Rings, also Daniel.
They do. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what I'm saying is they don't have a lot of like top tier quality. They have a lot of content. They don't have a lot of top tier. Like The Boys and Invincible are the things that are like, like Netflix has the Stranger Things, and now Netflix has Sandman, and Netflix has had these other shows that have been really popular, and I feel like Amazon hasn't had as many. But like the cream of their crop is in some ways better than other things that Netflix has done. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Yeah. I mean, it's getting more competitive, I think. And I think in time, and obviously Gen V has been hugely popular for them.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't checked that out yet.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen so far, and some people think it's way better than The Boys. And so I've liked what I've seen so far a lot. I just got to keep continuing on that. And anyway, I think they're carving out the path for them. I just still implore them to get a better fucking menu system. It's still so bad. I can't get over it.
I will say, I mean, I hate Amazon Prime's interface. It's the worst. I at this point though, Paramount Plus has taken the king of just horrible streaming apps to use. We use it for like watching Star Trek, and
I don't even use it, dude.
God,
quick question. Do I have Paramount Plus still?
I'm not using yours. I used to.
Okay, I didn't know.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I was signed in for a long time. I think when I was like watching Picard, I think I signed in with yours. But no, we've had it for a while. But man, it's just like it's like the like if like you'll get the like skip intro button once the intro starts on a show, it'll just freak the fuck out. It'll just like crash the app trying to skip the intro.
Really, that's crazy.
It's just so like glitchy. It's not even like the interface looks fine. It's just that it doesn't work. And it's just like buggy as shit. Anyway,
I only asked because I don't know. I didn't know if I had it or not. It tells you how much I look at Paramount Plus. I was like, do I have this?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like Star Trek and SpongeBob, I mean, I don't know what else you're going to that for, to be honest.
I feel like I have it. Like this is a inside baseball for no one cares about this, and then I could get I don't think in trouble. It was through. Thank you, Daniel. It was through my Xfinity like internet provider that I got it for free, basically. Yeah. And once I left Arkansas, and I closed that provider down. They never canceled my Paramount. They never took it away from me.
Are you sure that wasn't Peacock? Was it Paramount Plus?
I thought know.
Okay, so maybe the new offer is Peacock. Maybe it was that one now.
Maybe it was Peacock. So it tells you both of those right there. I don't know.
It's a streaming service with a P that pretty much no one watches. Paramount, Peacock, they're interchangeable. To be honest,
there's rumors that HBO Max or Warner Brothers is going to absorb Paramount. who knows?
There's rumors that David Zaslav is the worst thing to happen to Hollywood in its 100 years of existence. So,
is that a rumor or
unconfirmed reports? So I guess we have to wait till it gets confirmed.
I'm not saying that, David. I would love to work on your Green Lantern TV show. I didn't say those things. Man. I was just a participant in this podcast. But
he agrees with me, though. He agrees with me.
No, I don't, David. I want a job. So
what do you want the next Acme versus Roadrunner or whatever to get canceled and then like pawned off to another streaming service?
I mean, versus nothing, yeah. I mean, versus making no movies, sure. It sounds good.
But if they never release your movie, it's as if you didn't ever make a movie. You just did all the work and you get none of the credit or real. You can't be like, look at this movie I made.
That's not true. I mean, first of all, the scenario is not that because we know they're shopping around.
Right. Well,
but two, I think making a movie that doesn't get released is still better than not getting to make a movie because there would theoretically be connections that I made.
Sure. Okay, fair.
And to make the next one that maybe would get released. At the
relationship level, there's still benefits. At the resume level, it's not. But yeah.
No, maybe we'll get someone to give me a pity movie.
Because you never want to be like, I worked on this movie that was so bad no one wanted to see it. You know what I mean? You don't want that on your resume.
Sure.
Yeah.
People. James Gunn helped produce it. You know.
I know.
So.
Yeah. Right. And it's it's Channing, not Channing Tatum. It's
John Cena.
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of.
Yeah.
He's acting in it, I guess, starring.
He's the lead live action character. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was like a live action animation Roger Rabbit thing.
It's 100% what it is, and people are saying
interesting.
And it's the best one since that movie. But obviously, it's
what others have there been?
I mean, there's been quite a bit. I mean, Space Jam for one.
Okay.
There's been Space Jam 2. There's been it's one called Looney Tunes Back in Action with Brendan Fraser.
Fair enough. I remember that one. Yeah.
So anyway, there's a couple. I don't know all of them, but I think we're in agreement, Daniel, that Invincible's great so far. I'm looking forward to kind of keep going on this journey this season and see where we kind of end up and if these character arcs kind of land. We didn't really dive too much deep into that, but I think we need to kind of move on because I got some other interesting things to talk about.
Ooh.
Real quick, we'll talk about this casting. Some are saying it's confirmed, some are not saying it's confirmed, but some people are saying Pedro Pascal, and if you hear my laugh there, is Mr. Fantastic, aka Reed Richards. And the new Fantastic Four movie directed by and written by, I think, Max Shackman. And so I think he was the showrunner for WandaVision season 1. So what's your thoughts on Pedro Pascal?
I mean, it's never in a million years would I picked him based on looks, and this is not a. It's not a like. Oh, I don't think a Mexican American could play this role. It's a.
Yeah,
I guess just based on his roles in the past. To me, Pedro Pascal is this hard, grizzly, tough man that's kind of can go up against anything, super confident. He just doesn't strike me as a nerdy scientist, which is kind of what I always associate Reed Richards with. It's just he's a little more like Tony Stark with not as cocky or maybe not as cool.
Not as cool.
Right,
he's not as cool.
Right. He's a little more nerdy. He's a little more just geeky than Tony Stark. And so it's a little bit difficult for me to imagine his performance, right? Because I just don't feel like I have a basis for it from past performances of his. At the same time, Pedro Pascal is one of my favorite working actors right now, and I
he's
have
fantastic.
Everything he's in is just amazing in my that I've seen, and so it's this thing of I think he'll absolutely kill it. I think he will probably do an amazing job, and even though it's not the look I imagined, I mean, I bet it'll be good. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have a really good movie with good characters and good writing and good acting than a bunch of characters that look the part, but the movie's subpar in all the other ways.
I think I 100% agree. I think that the hang up is just he doesn't. It's just it's hard for me to wrap my head around it visually, but not be it's complicated, but. It's because I've never seen him do that kind of role before.
Right.
And he's always doing these, man, it's like these Western Burt Reynolds suave kind of roles.
Yeah, he's like a Han Solo kind of character.
100%.
Narcos, which I know you haven't seen yet, but that is very much his he's willing to break the rules to get the job done.
Well,
and
he's got
suave,
that.
and
He's got that twang, He's got that
yes.
he's got that hip in his step, And so,
Yes.
for me, when someone said Adam Driver, I'm like, super, also a very unique choice, but I can see him being the very quick, fast, put his glasses up, intelligent, super brain, right? And when someone says Jake Gyllenhaal, I can also see that too because I've seen him play these neurotic, fast talking characters. Yes. And I've seen Pedro Pascal has been fast talking, but he's always either been goofy or he's been very serious and smooth. Yeah. And that's not what I think of Reed Richards at all. It's the opposite.
Yeah. So no, it is interesting. And I guess like at first my thought was like, how old is I guess like Vanessa Kirby is the favorite, right, for Sue Storm, right?
It sounds like she's a lock, and even just watching interviews yesterday with her, she was
I did
like,
see that. Yeah, like I want to tell him to call me or whatever, right?
Yeah. And it was just kind of like, I think
okay, you're on board, and I'm sure they would get you because you're a good actress and.
She's good. Yeah. What's the age difference there?
She's 35. He's 48, which isn't as bad as I thought. And I think probably I'm like the last thing I saw Pedro in was Last of Us. And he looked old in that. Like I feel like they made him look older. Maybe like they played up the gray hairs and the wrinkles a bit for that role, I think. And like it kind of worked with like this dystopian, world that it was in. But
if they make him, Reed's had a beard a lot in the past in the comics, but if they shave his beard, then they'll automatically make him look 10 years younger. But he just has that kind of baby round face. He
does a little bit, and just Vanessa Kirby looks very young for her age too. And so there is a little bit.
I don't actually think she looks. I think she's a beautiful lady. I think she looks her age in a good way. Yeah. Not in a bad way, in a great way.
Sure. Yeah, maybe not. All that to say is, it wasn't as big of a difference as I was thinking. I was thinking the other day, I was like, is there going to be like a 50-year-old looking guy with like a 20-year-old looking girl? That's just weird. It's fine, but it just wouldn't feel as.
Here's the next question, Daniel. Can you look up how old was Robert Downey Jr. when he started as Iron Man? That's the next question. Because the kind of the fear from some people is like, can he do it for 10 years? And first of all, the answer is absolutely, because freaking Sylvester Stallone is like 72, 73, still doing action movies. Yeah. Freaking Harrison Ford. I'm not saying these guys are top of their form like they used to be.
Yeah.
But his superpowers, he stretches. Pedro Pascal's not going to actually stretch, everybody. Like whenever he starts doing his powers, he'll become a CGI character.
Right. Yeah. So he was 43 or around 43 with Iron Man 1, I think.
Okay. So they're close,
Yeah.
And here's the thing too, is like, which we'll kind of get into what my next thing was, Daniel, is that we still think Secret Wars will be the last of the phase, but they could, it may be stupid, they could recast again after Secret Wars to someone younger.
That would be weird. Unless they're just going like everyone's young now, and that's kind of the soft reboot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. But the thing is too, we've been seeing a lot of rumors about Kang and what Marvel may not be doing.
What's I'm getting with
Kang, right? And so right now, in my personal opinion, Marvel feels a little bit like a cluster, right? Like it feels a cluster.
Duck?
Cluster, yeah. No, it just feels so chaotic that I don't even know if Marvel's completely sure they know what they're doing yet, kind of thing, right? And I know we got those Variety reports, and then there was some debate about if it was accurate or not, whatever. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about like, it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing with Kang yet. We can't, it's either a recast or they're just pivoting from that story altogether, which seems like the worst decision. Yeah,
let's get into it.
With this, I'll just say with Pedro, part of me thinks it could still change. Like part of me is like, I think I believe this because it's coming from reputable leakers and stuff like that. But part of me is like, but Marvel feels so tumultuous. It wouldn't surprise me much if next week they're like, oh, actually they're not using Pedro, they're going with some other guy. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to even kind of trust even these rumors because I just feel like I don't know if Marvel has got their head on straight yet. They're trying to course correct. But.
Yeah, Pedro could be a bumper in the fact that like if the rumors that Jake Gyllenhaal asked for too much money. And then Pedro's like, and then they're getting Pedro now, and they're like, and then Jake in this case could be like, well, we'll do a little less, but Also, whoever does this, they deserve all the money because they're going to be if it's done correctly, no fault to the actor's own, but if it's done correctly by all the filmmakers involved, they're going to be huge. Yeah. And they're going to be leading the franchise in a big bad way, especially for Secret Wars. Because if you don't know, Secret Wars, at least the most modern one, it's basically Mr. Fantastic versus Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
And it ends in an awesome way. And so
and then I guess the other thing around this is that the rumors are Javier Bardem for Galactus, right? For that.
Yeah, it's been Antonio Banderas forever for the last 3 months.
I prefer Javier Bardem personally.
I do too. But again, it's like Antonio Banderas as Galactus. Like no one would ever put a gun to my head and like name off name off all the actors in the universe, and I still would forget to name him for Galactus. Yeah, you know. So like,
I guess it also just. I mean, I guess. Did we already know Galactus was the villain, or is this kind of confirming that as well?
We don't know. I mean, the rumor is that he's heavily involved, and if not the villain, I still think he should be a later villain. But
it just means that maybe Doctor Doom isn't in the first Fantastic, at least not a prominent in the first Fantastic Four movie potentially.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I mean, like it's where it starts getting kind of complicated because, like, a couple things. Let's back up real quick because I think we're going to tie back into this conversation. So now it's basically been confirmed. It seems like that Daniel Destin Cretton is now not directing Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, and he's going back to working on Miracle Man, and he's going potentially to work on Shang-Chi 2, which should have come out last year, in my opinion, or this year. What a miss on Marvel's part to not keep that character going. And so that kind of tells me a couple things. One, I don't know yet, but I kind of wonder, Daniel, if they're going to just abandon the Kang storyline.
I wonder that too, but I feel like that would just be a mistake. I feel like you should just recast it and just keep going. You've laid so much groundwork.
But I think that's absolutely a factor. I don't think it's so much the casting as is. I think they're afraid people aren't latching onto this Kang idea that they were hoping for, specifically with Ant-Man like Wasp Quantumania. But my pushback on Marvel's thinking is like, yes, everyone was super intrigued by Thanos when he turned in the chair in Avengers. But that was the hardcore comic book fans, and they had to tell everyone else what was going on.
Right.
And Thanos' true debut, Guardians of the Galaxy, people weren't freaking out over that.
No.
Like, people weren't like, this character's amazing. And they weren't freaking out at the end of Age of Ultron when he said, I'll do it myself. And for that teaser, which is not a good teaser, and it actually was kind of confusing. And so it's like, no one cared about Thanos until the first 5 minutes of Avengers Infinity War.
Sure.
Like, no one liked that character until those first 5 minutes, until Josh Brolin gave us that version of Thanos under the direction and writing of the Marcus and Stephen McFeely and the Russo brothers. And so I think I'm like, you guys haven't given Kang his due yet. It's not been Jonathan Majors. It's not been the character. It's been the writing and the filmmaking behind it. And if I have total faith in Jonathan Majors as an actor, if he was not guilty and all these other things, and they kept going, he can make an amazing villain. Sure. Like, I think it'd be fantastic. It's not his fault, and I think he's not given the due. That being said, I've been doing some thinking the last 24 hours, and you can absolutely retcon it because, it's like I can't think of the word in wrestling. I'm not a wrestling watcher at all, but it's like someone who you build up this big bad guy, and then new bad guy comes in, and they kick the new bad guy's ass. It's what they
show that they're bigger bad guy,
bigger, badder, badass,
yeah.
And so that's how you maybe recast Kang, but you have all those council of Kangs, you have the big stadium of Kangs, and you have Dr. Doom come in and be like, "Fuck you all," like I'm Doom or whatever.
Sure,
and that's how you do that.
Have Doom be a Kang variant if they want to go that route, so you're not 100%. Really. And that's a way to pivot without just kind of scrap. It's not just like, oh, well, Kang went away or something. It could just be like, no, Kang, what what didn't happen last time was Victor Von Doom's Kang or whatever that is.
And there's comic book and I kind of think they were going to do that anyway.
Sure.
But just not in the order.
I could imagine it in originally the plan was that after they defeat Kang, then those events end up causing Doom's rise to power versus it being like, okay, well now Doom is just the Kang big bad guy, essentially, like the ultimate Kang versus it's
Loki's position has also changed this too, because I kept saying the Beyonder would be the one who makes Battle World. And part of like Doom, like granted, Doom's a bad guy and he acts all selfless in this Secret Wars arc, but his goal was not incorrect. And like there's all these incursions are happening. Sure. And so he tries to save what's left into a planet. He just happens to be omnipotent God on it and ruling everything. Right. So it's like intentions. It's like, well, if I don't do this, there'll be nothing. So I get that, but I think like maybe now with Loki on the chair, God Loki as they call him, maybe because of something Dr. Doom does or doesn't do, the branches are breaking and he like in a last ditch effort sacrifices himself or something to make a battle world, and then Doom oversees that, by accident or something. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm more excited about Doom than Kang, just because I'm more familiar with Doom, and to me, he's just kind of a cooler guy. And so I'm not opposed to the pivot. I think at this point, I don't care what they do as long as they just start doing it better. Is how I'm feeling somewhat with Marvel. Guys, do whatever you need to do, but just start doing everything better, and I'll probably be pretty happy with it. I will say that like my favorite casting for Doom right now is Glenn Howerton. I think he would absolutely.
I don't know who that is.
It's Dennis on It's Always Sunny.
What? You want Glenn Howerton as Dr. Doom?
Look at him, dude. I mean, he's aged, but like he has the look.
I would say he would have been an amazing Reed Richards. He's the perfect Reed Richards.
It's hard to imagine him as a good guy, I guess. Probably, credit to It's Always Sunny.
Well, he's an amazing Reed Richards. He would be amazing. He looks exactly like Reed Richards to me, but like a little thinner. But amazing Reed Richards.
I guess. I mean, but I also feel like to me, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom have always been kind of just like. They're similar but different. Like it's like two sides of a similar coin. One's like the good version of the other one's the bad version, except Reed's got. Yeah. I just think the picture I just sent you. I think that to me just has like, I don't know. I could just that to me he gives off an air of superiority. And again, this is probably like thanks to his Always Sunny character who's just like a pure narcissist. But to me, that like his like air of superiority just fits Doom for me really well. I just think.
Hey, I'm down for it. I mean, I think he's a good actor, and I've watched some interviews with him, and he seems pretty intelligent. And
yeah, for sure.
I think he's one of the writers. Like they all kind of write, don't they? With Rob.
Oh yeah, they're like all
or what's his name?
They're like all writers and directors and producers for It's Always Sunny. Yeah. And then he's been branching out and been doing good stuff too. He's got his own that show where he's a high school teacher. I haven't checked it out, but I hear it's good.
What about Denzel as Dr. Doom?
I mean, yeah, if you want to just bring out an Academy Award winning all-time great actor, fine. I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean, he could kill it. He would absolutely. I mean,
to me, again, that's like that's how you fix the Kang problem.
Denzel to me would be a perfect recast too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Or just if we're just staying on Kang, but we're not getting to Doom yet, let's just put Denzel as the new Kang. If he was willing to do it, he's old, man. He's getting up there. But
what's the good thing is that it's only like 4 or 5 more years here, and he's not going to have to do a whole lot of great. Yeah. I just think what you could really do is you could
or Denzel's son. Why not? Why not John David Washington?
You cast John David as Kang, and then you cast Denzel as Dr. Doom. It's like he's like the older version, he's like he's doing. That would be amazing.
That would be cool. I mean, Denzel's doing The Equalizer 3 this year, so he's still in action roles.
Oh yeah, I mean, and he's good in it.
Almost 70, but yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. And he would just bring a lot of gravitas and like
Oh my
history
God.
to the character.
And the
you know?
lines, the line deliveries, woof, it would
Oh man, can you imagine Denzel in the
mm,
MCU?
mm.
Oh,
I know.
oh,
I know. It
Feige,
sounds
listen to us,
amazing. It
baby.
sounds amazing.
Yeah. So when you say something like that, you're kind of like, now how do you roll it back to something not as
Less cool.
great?
Yeah. I know.
That's cool. But last little tidbit here, and we'll get off, is that the Marvel trademarks a lot of different things every year, and sometimes they're because they want to have an idea and lock it in. Other times it's for red herrings to kind of throw fans off, and then other times it's actually what they're going forward with in their plans. And so one of the trademarks, they dropped a few of them recently, but one of the ones they didn't drop that they filed at the same time that they had made these other ones that they did drop was Avengers Eternity War. And there's also been heavy rumors that Eternals is getting a sequel, which is interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So there's that rumor, and now we have Avengers Eternity War, and there's some people are saying, like the rumors that Secret Wars will become part 1, and then instead of Kang Dynasty, and then Eternity War will become part 2, which I kind of think is, and it'll be in the fact that like Avengers 1 or it was Infinity War part 1 and 2, and then they end up making that part 1 and Endgame part 2, basically, right? So the same line of thinking there, and essentially, if you kind of think about it, Eternity War makes me feel like we have the Celestials coming. You have the Celestial and the Earth. Galactus is, for all intents and purposes, to me, some type of Celestial. He's something like a Celestial, and so I wonder, where they're going with this, what they're going to pivot. And here's the big thing, Daniel, is that we understand all the Kang stuff going on, but not everybody watched Loki. And they have to understand now, after the Marvel's box office opening, which we'll do a review for you guys next week, is that just because it's on Disney Plus doesn't mean people are going to watch it and know what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's backfired for them, the idea of like everything's connected and we're going to do things in the show that lead to the movie.
You're right. They diluted. Yeah, you're right. It has backfired for them. I do think that season 2 of Loki, while I think is better for Loki as a character, I think is almost less important information for the universe as a whole, right? Like, because we talked about
it's the same.
Yeah, and so there is this outside of like them killing He Who Remains and that being kind of like, the catalyst of being what else happens. Nothing else is quite necessary to know, I guess, right? Like you
don't need to know Loki is holding everything together.
No, right? Not necessarily. And so I think they're probably going to have to do things where they, I imagine that like they're going to have to they'll probably open one of the movies with like a flashback to the point where Loki kills Kang again, or so Sylvie kills Kang, and probably have to just like show that on screen one more time, and then be like, and this is exactly what happened right at, and then like cut to this universe where like the first Kang that realizes He Who Remains is dead, like realizes it, or something like that, like where they're just having to be a little bit more exposition-y, because I mean I think if they are continuing with Kang, that's a really important moment, and so I feel like they're gonna have to find a way to. I don't know.
I really don't. I don't think so, because I think that's like inside baseball. Again, they've treated these shows like you really don't need to watch them for the most part to get what's going on in the movies. And I say that because I mean, like, what you don't really need to see He Who Remains dies to get what I mean. Kang's introduction in Quantumania tells you everything what Kang's about. I mean, it tells you he's a time traveler guy. There's a lot of me out there, and I trapped here because all my variants put me here. You don't need to know anything about that's all inside baseball of like basically the loop theory stuff. And to me, the only thing you have to do to fix this, because again, think of yourself as the viewer who's never seen an episode of Loki. So the only thing you know of is Kang's introduction in Quantumania, and that post-credit scene of all those Kangs. All you have to do is go look through your footage and say, how many shots and angles did we get of Jonathan Majors of Kang during that stadium thing? Recreate it in some way and have another big bad come in and destroy all them.
Sure.
To end that thread, and then to make this guy the new bad guy, because no one's and also the thing is, it's so funny is like how connected they're making, how much work they've kind of been doing behind the scenes, and also in Loki and Quantumania and all these things to make Kang the big bad. I mean, they feel connected, but like the more pressing issue to me is none of these characters feel connected at all. I don't right now.
Yeah.
Do I care if they all team up to fight Kang? Of course, I'm gonna watch it 5 fucking times. Like Marvel's got my money forever, but as a watcher, writer, filmmaker, all these things, and like somebody who wants this to be good, right now I'm like, who are the Avengers? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything, Daniel. Yeah. I don't know if the ending of She-Hulk is real. I don't know if where's Moon Knight. I don't know anything. I don't know where's the Celestial. Where are the Eternals at? What are the Eternals doing? Where's Dane Whitman? Where's Shang-Chi?
I also saw that like one of the characters that died in Eternals 1 is going to be in the second, or getting his own movie.
The rumor is that he's coming back for Eternals 2. It's Icarus, which is
Icarus. I knew it was Game of Thrones guy. Was I was thinking.
Yeah, which hey. But like because it's like these are all made per planet, right? Like these Eternals, and there's like the theory is that there's millions of copies of these Eternals, and so like
there's too many characters with millions of copies of themselves becoming.
Yeah, well, that's the thread you pull when you have Infinity in multiverses.
You're right.
But the idea that he could come back as a good guy, but a different version of him, whatever. I don't know. Yeah, and you also have Pip the Troll and Harry Styles showing up at the end as Thanos' human brother.
Wait, that was Thanos' human brother. Who was he at the end of that?
He was what was his name? Star Fox? Fox Star?
Oh yeah, I think it may have been Star Fox or something like that.
Star Fox. That doesn't sound right because there's Star Fox Nintendo character, but I think it's Star Fox and Patton Oswalt as Pip the Troll.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway, they've set up all these threads that feel so disconnected, and they're like, we're going to have an Avengers movie in 3 years. Deadpool comes out next year, and then we have another year between that to make all this stuff feel connected. Like, holy shit! No wonder. Maybe Daniel was like, Daniel Destin Cretton was like, I don't want to make this movie. Like, this is going to be impossible.
I mean, that does seem to be an issue. Is like, I don't know. It's becoming a little bit of like go work for Marvel if you want your career to not be as maybe good as it was, at least in the last few years. I mean, like Deborah Chow came off like an Oscar-winning movie and then did Eternals, and then I'm sure that didn't help her career prospects. Kind of.
I don't think so.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure she's doing fine, but like at the same time, it's like the Russo brothers were kind of the last people like, holy shit, they made a name for themselves making Marvel. But then after that, they've had a really poor showing. And so it's kind of this thing of like, but before in the heyday, you went to Marvel to increase maybe your stock as a creative. And nowadays it's like, I don't know. It's much more of a risk now to be a director involved with a Marvel movie because they haven't been good lately, and kind of behind the scenes at the levels above the director, it's been chaotic, and I think those problems are bleeding down. And so, yeah,
it was useful to increase your stock when you were not a nobody but almost a nobody.
Yeah.
Examples: Russo brothers, James Gunn, Taika Waititi.
Who the Spider-Man director?
Mark Webb.
Yes.
Wait, no, John Watts. Mark Webb was his stock decreased when he made the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's Mark Webb. He's making Snow White next, which that's got its own issues happening right now. But John Watts is the director of those 3 Spider-Man movies, and was the director of Fantastic Four until he dropped out. Remember?
Right. Which is like it's the thing of just like, oh, I don't know. That's kind of concerning. Like, is Marvel getting too hard to work with for people that are good? You know what I mean? Like, it's. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm super curious as what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I will say, I'll end on this now, is like it kind of pains me a little bit if they do next the Kang storyline just for continuity reasons, because we've invested and spent so much time on this channel talking about Kang and what it could mean. It's like, oh, Marvel is pivoting because of their shortcomings, not ours.
And it just makes all of those shows now like the thing is, if they continue with Kang, then there becomes like relevance to Loki season 1 and 2. Like, if you want to get the full Kang saga, well, you got to start there. You know what I mean? You got to watch Ant-Man 3. You know what I mean? Like these movies that maybe didn't do amazingly, but like if you keep on with Kang, if you make Kang the big thing, then those movies that adds to their value, right?
Yeah,
in a way. Versus if you're like, okay, we're not doing Kang at all anymore, those movies just become useless, like just pointless, and just like, oh wow, that made Loki season 1 and 2 were good, but they meant nothing, essentially.
I would probably never watch them ever again. I would watch Ant-Man 3, but I would never watch Loki ever again.
And that's sad. I mean, that's part of the reason I hope they do continue with Kang. I hope they do kind of like, if you finish strong with the Kang arc, whether you got, Jonathan Majors in there or not, I think that elevates those shows that have come before. If you just trash it, it dilutes all value that they had, which wasn't a lot, Yeah.
And a thread you could pull, like the TVA at the end of Loki, they're saying, oh, they're watching Kang. So it's like another kind of out they gave themselves. Right. I don't think it was intentional. I think the idea was that Kang's a threat now and they're watching, but you could easily also say like, yeah, the TVA cleaned it up. Right.
Yeah. Which would be a really boring resolution.
Oh, it's awful.
Hey, Kang got beat off screen.
Yeah. That's worse than,
like, they'll be like, oh,
everyone's super upset that Ant-Man beat Kang. Like everyone talks about it.
Yeah, I know. That didn't bother me nearly as much.
It doesn't me either, just because I don't think
it wasn't
he
a full powered Kang either.
It wasn't full powered. He did underestimate the little guy. And I think I don't think he was the Kang,
No.
He didn't have the thing he needed the most, which was time.
Yes.
So he was outside of time, which is his biggest weakness, literally.
Yep.
So, and I also don't think he died. Well, at that point in time, I don't think he died. He could have died now that Marvel's changing things.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/2for1mail and let us know what you thought of Invincible season 2. I did remember what this episode was initially about.
Yep.
So Invincible season 2, the Pedro Pascal, Reed Richards rumors. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think Marvel will do with Kang? Or maybe what do you think Marvel should do with Kang? Let us know. bit.ly/2for1mail.
I'm excited to see Hugh Jackman and Tobey Maguire fight somebody
in the only MCU movie that comes out next year, right?
Well, I was talking about Secret Wars.
Oh, okay.
Tobey Maguire.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I am.
Well, he's rumored to be in maybe Deadpool 3, right? Like
everyone's rumored to be. Everyone's rumored to be in that.
You're right.
That's Doctor Strange 2 all over again. What that is.
Yes.
But ultimately, I think I'm most excited about DC. No, I'm kidding. About Marvel's reboot, which is like DC. So
sure,
I think
like the one that may be coming in 5 to 6 years potentially.
At Post-Secret, whatever Post-Secret Wars is, to me, that's what I'm most excited about, because I think they fumbled the ball quite a bit now, and there was never an issue of like they never had to dig themselves out of a hole because they were always hitting the mark.
Yeah.
And it led to Thanos pretty naturally. Now they've put all their stock in a character, and that character is not doing what they think is not good enough. And they've put a lot around that. And so it's like, this is the downside of this is what happened to all those other studios, right? They would make them, they would plan out all this stuff, and then the movie didn't failed, or like just DC. All these movies, they didn't hit like they were supposed to. And then they started canceling stuff and pivoting, and it started making it convoluted and not as interesting. And that's kind of what happens. So maybe they could pull it out. Maybe they could fix it. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.